All right, the Utah Jazz got absolutely decimated by the Los Angeles Clippers. Who did they play tonight? They beat us so bad I forgot who we even played, but it was the Los Angeles Clippers. James Harden had a remarkable night. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about the Jazz and just kind of the outlook of the team because things are getting real in the Whole Foods parking lot. All right, so the Clippers absolutely destroyed the Jazz. This game was, for the most part, kind of decided pretty quickly because the Clippers just came out. I mean, as a team for the game, at one point while we were watching the live stream on playback, they were at like 63%, and it was in like the fourth quarter. They ended up going down to 53% from three for the game, but they absolutely just destroyed Utah from every facet, mostly just shooting the ball. They were out of their minds, but, you know, Norman Powell had 29. The player of the game was James Harden, who was just out of his mind tonight. 41 points. He had 6 assists. He was out of control. He was so good tonight. And really, this Clippers team is interesting because they do have a lot of really good pieces on the floor. You know, we all, as Jazz fans, know what Chris Dunn is and what he can do. And so what happens with this Clippers team when Kawhi Leonard comes back and how good can they be? Well, I think they're going to be pretty darn good. And Jazz fans need this Clippers team. This, you know, in a weird way, this Clippers win helps the Jazz because, look, Clippers are 15-12. If they can beat out Minnesota, it can knock Minnesota down into this area. So Jazz fans, like we talked about, we need some of these, you know, Sacramento lost. Dang it. Sacramento lost tonight, so they're struggling. But the Phoenix and Golden State and Clippers need to overtake Minnesota to put that pick into the lottery. So this was a nice win for the Jazz fans who are watching those standings really closely, like me. But yeah, this Clippers team is really good. I mean, can they win the championship? I don't know. But they do have a lot of good role players. There's not a lot of weakness on this Clippers team, whether you talk offensively, defensively, they're going to be great. And Kawhi Leonard hasn't even been playing. And if you look at the Clippers right now, they are sitting at this 14 spot, 15-12, but there's no reason why they can't keep moving up. They just need to outpace Minnesota, which I think they can. So this is a good Clippers team. They don't even have Kawhi Leonard back. So good news for Jazz fans. Kawhi's coming back. Good news for Clippers fans. Kawhi is coming back. All right, let's talk about the Jazz. I mean, there's some things to talk about. Not a lot. They got beat by how much did the Jazz get beat by tonight? It was like 40 at one point, so they cut it down to 30. The Jazz cut the lead to 37, which is positive, right? But anyways, Utah loses big time tonight, which is good for the overall and long-term outlook of this team. Utah's going for it, and we've got to be excited about it. And it's funny, so before we get into the players, and there's not a ton of things to talk about with players, but Sven asked me during the live stream, like, well, James, if you were an owner and you could do whatever you wanted with a team, well, basically it would be a lot of what the Jazz are doing now. Because what matters to me most, and you guys know this, who are fans of the Hoops Nerd channel. By the way, if you're a Jazz fan and you're new here, like and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel, just hit join. I got my voice halfway back. I'm not quite there yet, but we're getting there. Today was like the first day back. I went to the gym and walked on the treadmill, watched Toronto, and I watched some Philadelphia. And I watch a lot of bad basketball, rooting for teams that I'm trying to, you know, beat out so the Jazz keep their spot here in the right now. Utah's looking pretty good at being top 3, which is great, but they got to keep the path, keep the eye on the prize, right? But anyways, Sven asked me, what would you do if you were the owner? And it would be a lot of what we're doing now. Like, this is what it takes to get a superstar on your team. It's what it takes. It's what it takes. Yes, you may not, you know, everyone, it's so funny when people talk about tanking and how tanking never works and blah, blah, blah. Well, tanking's worked for every team that's won a championship because they lost a lot of games and were able to get a player that changed their team. So whether you call it tanking, building through the draft, getting a top pick, whatever you want to call it, that's what matters most. I mean, it worked for the Boston Celtics. They got Jason Tatum at 3, which, by the way, that can count as a number 1 pick because remember, Boston, who won that number 1 pick with the Nets pick, ended up trading back from 1 took Jason Tatum at 3, and they also were able to get Jaylen Brown with another Nets pick. That turned out pretty good. So what Utah's doing right now is what they need to do to get their superstar player. Basketball's really simple. It's really simple. If you've got that superstar on your team, it's the reason why Sacramento didn't win this game tonight against Denver, is because when you've got Jokic, you can win the game. Now, a lot of people that say building through the draft, you just draft Jokic later. Jokic might be the best draft pick of all time because he was a second-round pick that turned into the best player in the NBA, right? But normally, you get that player in the top 5 of the draft, top 5, top 6. Like Steph Curry goes 6, Kevin Durant goes 2. LeBron James goes 1. Luka Doncic goes 3. All these players, there are the exceptions. Jokic is an exception. Giannis is kind of an exception. But you get those players at the top of the draft. And by the way, Giannis, when he was drafted, was 6'9" and grew 3 or 4 inches after he got drafted. So I kind of look at Giannis as like, if Giannis came into that draft at 7 foot, 7'1", whatever he is, I doubt he would have gone in the teens like he did, the early teens, right? The other one that kind of fell that was a surprise was Kawhi Leonard, because, the shooting, everyone talked about the shooting, and Kawhi had literally everything else: the body, the size, the skill, the defense. It was just a question of whether he could shoot, and then he kind of figured it out with Chip Kelly or whatever his name is. Not Chip Kelly. What's the shooting coach? It's like Chip something. Anyways, this is what you have to do. You have to get a top 5 pick, and preferably number 1, because you have first choice. And if you know a certain player is going to be number 1, like the Celtics did with Jason Tatum, and then you pick him. I'm guessing the Celtics would have picked Jason Tatum number 1 if the Sixers weren't willing to trade up to get Markelle Fultz. The Celtics just knew that Jason Tatum was going to be that guy. So what I would do as an owner, like Sven said, is exactly what the Jazz are doing. I'd try to get that top pick. Now, I'd probably be a little more drastic than Ryan Smith has done. And I probably wouldn't have been messing around with certain trade rumors like Mikal Bridges, who we found out that those trade rumors were very legit from Mark Stein. The trade rumors with Brandon Ingram, not super legit. Those were not. But the Mikal Bridges stuff, and we talked about that on the live stream, like how grateful am I that we're doing it this way than like trading for Mikal Bridges and all our picks to just be another play-in team. Like, if the Jazz get Mikal Bridges, how much better are they? Are they really that much better than these teams? Do we really think Utah would have been better than maybe Minnesota? At best, I think they'd be in this range with Mikal Bridges, at best. But what I do think is Utah's making the right decisions right now, because this team is going to get a very nice player. Now, they could have worst case scenario in the draft and fall to 6 or 7, and that would break my heart. It absolutely would. But if Utah gets a top 3 pick, they're coming out of this draft, even a top 4 or 5 pick, they're coming out with a great player. In fact, I'm getting to the point where it's top 6 for me. Utah's coming out of this draft with a good, it's becoming foolproof at this point, because Yakusonis is looking really good at 6. Like, really good, guys. Really good. Kasparas Yakusonis is looking good. Remember the name. Very, very solid. Looking like a really fun counterpart at that number 2 spot. But really what Utah just needs is this top 3. And by locking in, being there and locking in those percentages, it gets better. Utah needs to lock in that number 2 pick. So what Utah's doing right now is absolutely the best thing. It's really, so much of basketball is so simple. It really is. I mean, if you have an MVP on your team, you have a chance to win a championship every year. Even the Milwaukee Bucks, who are not having the greatest of year, they have an MVP caliber player in Giannis, and he's winning them games now. The Denver Nuggets, they have an MVP on their team. It's not that complicated. Just build around his strengths. LeBron James in his prime. Kawhi Leonard on Toronto, they put an MVP on that team, and all of a sudden they won a title. You could even argue with Embiid in Philadelphia when he was at his peak. It's looking not good now, but they nearly went to the finals as well. So when you have an MVP on your team, you will become a contender right away. And Utah does not have that player. But in this draft, they have players in this draft that certainly look like that. Cooper Flagg, man, If Utah gets him, holy smokes. And by the way, I'm talking about this because the Jazz lost by 40, because who cares at this point? But Dylan Harper is looking like freaking the second coming of James Harden, who won an MVP and nearly took the Rockets at his peak to the finals, right? And James Harden really faltered in the playoffs, but Dylan Harper might be the better version in some ways. Ace Bailey is 6'10" and big time shot maker and plays big time defense. You have some questions about the passing, but we even talked this out, me and Sven, during the live stream. Like, if Ace Bailey, all he does is score, he's also a pull-up threat. So he's like, his worst case scenario is, I guess, Lauri Markkanen right now on the Jazz. That's his worst case scenario. I guess worst cases, they all could be an absolute bust. But like, if he turns out to be a good NBA player, but it's just like his floor is basically like Lauri Markkanen, if he becomes a good rotation player, that's pretty good. The thing that makes him different than Lauri Markkanen is he can become a really nice isolation player from what you've seen. And he's big. And he's also going to be probably a better defender than Lauri Markkanen. That's a pretty good player. If Lauri Markkanen became a better defender and a better isolation player, holy crap. You know what I mean? Holy smokes, is that a good player? And that's who's going 3, right? So if Utah can just like lock in that top 3, and then Yegor Demin, there's a world where he's like the best player in the draft. Look at this 7.1 assists. He's 6'9". His passing is special, and look at that, two steals per game. Yegor for BYU is earning every bit of that NIL money. So this is a great draft. I just want to go top 4, and I'm happy, because that's what Sven was asking me too. And, we were talking about it. Like, what if we don't win number 1? Are you going to be absolutely depressed? No, because Ace Bailey might be really, really good, and it's not always the number 1 pick. It is sometimes number 2 in Kevin Durant. You know what I mean? Sometimes it is that third player that people didn't realize was going to be that good. SGA, I guess, is one of those examples of a player outside that turned into something out of his mind. But, those are the exceptions, not the rule. So anyways, Utah's doing what they need to do to build through the draft. It's what they need to do. They need to do it next year. AJ DeBonsa's coming to BYU, and Utah's going to get a very good look at him, and I'm sure they're going to want him. That's why next year is going to be fascinating. What does Utah do after this draft? What does this offseason look like? It's going to be crazy. And this trade deadline, I'm sure Utah's going to make some moves, because they got to seal this deal. If the NBA season ended today and Utah stops at 3, I guess I'm pretty happy with that, because it's really hard to be in that spot where Utah is. Like, do people realize how hard it is to be right here and have Lauri Markkanen on the team? Hard to do. And so Jazz fans actually got to be pretty happy, because we're doing something right for once. Can we be just good at being bad? And we're finally being good at being bad. You know what I mean? You don't want to be here. You be the freaking Chicago Bulls, like always. The Bulls are always here. They're always in this range. The Sacramento Kings, they're always here. The Atlanta Hawks, for how long have they've always been here? The Indiana Pacers, this is where they always are, because they do the same thing every year. Every year. It's actually depressing. It's funny. They're always in this middle ground. You never get out of it, and you never get below it. And then you have to do something drastic. Well, the Utah Jazz are doing it pretty good. They're going to be top 3, and they've got to think about some more trades of some of these veterans, especially someone like Colin Sexton. No one loved scoring in garbage time more and more efficiently than Colin Sexton did. He is the king of that. Now, he can score pretty well at times and shown that he can be an efficient scorer, but man, does he like to score in garbage time. Just let's go through these players pretty quick tonight. Lauri Markkanen probably had the best night for any Jazz man, just because of the efficiency. The defense wasn't there, though, but he definitely scored efficiently tonight. 17 points, 3 for 6 from 3, 5 for 9. That's what he did, and that's what Lauri Markkanen does, is he scores at a high level efficiently. Now, there's some questions about the defense and how impactful it is, but you probably get those answered when you start putting players like Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey around Lauri Markkanen. John Collins kind of had to come down to earth. Everyone on the Jazz had to kind of come to Jesus moment tonight, because it was no one played really well. But John Collins came down to earth a little bit. He's been having a 50, 40, 90 season. He came back to earth. 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He played more minutes than anyone, but the numbers were not that great. The Clippers just kind of kicked the Jazz butts tonight. That's basically what happened. So Walker Kessler was pretty decent, pretty solid. 10.7 rebounds on solid efficiency, but he wasn't affecting things too much more. It's just really hard to take a lot from tonight, guys, because everyone got their butts kicked. Colin Sexton, he did a good job scoring in garbage time. It's what he does best, but he does score efficiently at other times. But tonight, he basically just scored the ball, and that's all he really cared about. Keontae George had a bad shooting night. It's his worst shooting night in like the last 2-3 weeks. So that's not going to help his percentages. It's not going to help the agenda. But he did have 7 assists. The passing is coming along, but man, the shooting has to get better. And some of that shooting just has to be. There were like 3 or 4 shots where it's just like, don't take that shot, Key. Just don't take it. He took it. They didn't go in. That's what happens. 18% shooting. 2 for 9 from Bryce Sensabaugh. 1 for 7 from 3. It's been his worst 3-point shooting night in a while. Man, no one played well for Utah tonight besides, I guess, Lauri Markkanen. No one did. This is how the Jazz are at bottom 3. And then Jordan Clarkson, even though he was like 3 for 6 from 3, it felt like very unimpactful. And you can kind of see that with the minus 21. Not very good. But anyways, the Jazz, that's kind of all we got tonight, guys. The Jazz lost by 40. But like, I guess if I had one thing that we would talk about tonight, it's the fact that Utah is doing something that's very hard to do. And they are at bottom 3 while having Lauri Markkanen on the team, you know. And Lauri Markkanen seems happy to be on this Jazz team, even though they're losing. That's fine. If he's fine with that, great. Because Utah may be able to add one of these 3 players. It's very likely that they do. The percentages are very good. It's like above 50% that they get in this range with this, you know. In fact, tanking percentages NBA 2024. Is there a thing that comes up? Let's see. There's one that has like a. I don't know if this is going to show us, guys. There's like a. How to see the percentages by spot in the lottery NBA. Here we go. This might show it right here. Does this show the chart? Well, that shows you. I guess if you understand this equation, you can understand how the lottery works. No. Okay, here we go. These show the percentages. First pick, you have a 14% shot. Here we go. This is great. So Utah right now, 14% at the first pick at 3, basic 13%, 12%, 11%. So you add these up. In fact, let's do the math. This is great TV. This is great. We're just going to do this live. I don't care. 14 plus 13 plus 12 plus 11. Utah has a 50% shot right now to just be in top 4, and it's a little bit above that. It's like 51, 52. But that also means that Utah has it's something like 50% to be out of the top 4 at that point with that. So it's 50-50. That's kind of what you're looking at. So we'll see. It's scary stuff, but man, the risk is worth it, guys. Think about what you would do to get. What are the best free agents? Like, what would you do to get Kevin Durant on the Jazz? Would Kevin Durant ever choose to go to the Jazz? Would he ever choose to come here? No. Free agency is just not possible for Utah. It's not. And the way trades go right now, some of it is very free agency-esque. Like, I saw some people complaining on social media, oh, the Jazz couldn't trade for Drew Holiday because he wouldn't resign. The Jazz couldn't trade for Brandon Ingram because he would. Well, the Jazz didn't try very hard for Brandon Ingram because he's not changing things much for Utah. But when someone like Drew Holiday says he wouldn't re-sign and that's why the Jazz didn't trade for him, well, there's an element of free agency to that. That, there's 3 ways to build your NBA team. It's through the free agency, through trade, and through draft. Trade has become a little bit of free agency, although I think we're just getting a little more information than we could back in the day. Like back in the day, you didn't have the the access that teams do and the insiders who talk to the agents and the agents that work with GMs, but also with reporters to try to get their way. Like every time Mark Stein tweets something out, anyone who disagrees with Mark Stein or says, like I had some dumb moron idiot on Twitter telling me like, oh, when is he right? Well, guess what? You're dumb because guess what? Every single one of those rumors is true. Why? Because someone's trying to get something out of it. And you know who's trying to get something out of it? NBA agents. The NBA agents half the time are the ones leaking it. But guess what? Sometimes it's NBA GMs too. They will leak things. Why? Because they get something out of it. They usually get someone to overbid on something, or they're trying to make other teams make a move so that they trade for their player. Or agents are trying to get GMs to make a move. So that's why they leak something. Like when an agent finds out that Danny Ainge went and talked to the Brooklyn Nets about Mikal Bridges, 100% Rich Paul was out there making that known. 100%. He's putting that information out there in other NBA circles. Why would Rich Paul do that? Or I don't know if Rich Paul is Mikal Bridges' agent, but I know that Rich Paul is, or not Rich Paul, he's Clutch. I don't know who the guy is from CAA, but if CAA finds out that the Jazz are talking about Mikal Bridges, why would they leak that stuff? Why would they leak that? Or Rich Paul is actually Colin Sexton's agent. He's actually Colin Sexton's agent. And I can't remember. He was like Chris Dunn's agent. I can't remember. Clutch clients NBA. Rich Paul client list. Okay, this is Clutch. And by the way, one of the most underbellies of the NBA is this spot right here because Clutch freaking is the number one agency in the NBA, and Rich Paul is like LeBron James' best friend, and there's collusion there. So if you want to know about some of the underbellies, this is it. This is the stuff. But we only talk about this here. Ain't nobody else out there talking about this stuff. Only here, right? Because, you know, even the guys out there, and I've had him on my show, you know, the guy's like, what's his name from Hoops Hype? He's in with all the agencies. He ain't going to tell you this stuff. And guys like, you know, local beat writers who have really good sources. Well, guess what? These are the sources, okay? These are the people that tell them the things. So anyways, Clutch Sports, which is basically richpaul.com. Rich Paul, is he dating Adele, by the way? Anyways, all this underbelly stuff to me is fun and fascinating, and it also, believe the rumors, guys. Believe them, because Rich Paul creates a lot of them. It's why I have certain theories about Walker Kessler, is because of the CAA connections with the Knicks and the Lakers. Those rumors, 100% true. And my question is not necessarily if the rumors are true. The question should not be if the rumors are true. By the way, guys, we're just out there. We're out there tonight. This is my stream of thoughts, but the rumors are true. The question should not be, are the rumors true? And this goes for politics and sports because it's very similar. It's not if the rumors are true. They usually are true. Not like a lot of the time, unless someone's just making something up. But even then, even if they're not true, they came from a source. Like Ryan Russillo talked about this, where he's gotten some rumors from certain GMs or agents. They may even lie to get things done. But even in a situation where the rumors aren't true, they are telling something to influence a move or a contract or trade. Everything goes back to money. You know, agents want players to go to teams where they can make the most money. One, because it makes their client the most money. But two, guess what? Rich Paul makes a lot of money when his clients get paid. So they try to make these moves. So anyways, agents believe the rumors, but what you got to ask yourself is who's giving the rumor and what's the purpose? Who's doing the rumor? Is it a GM or an agent? Careful what I do with my fingers there. Is it the agent or is it the agent or the GM? And what's the motivation of the rumor? Is it to get a player moved, or is it to get a player to somewhere? Right? So when we hear rumors about Walker Kessler, multiple rumors, it makes you go, does that come from Danny Ainge? Which he leaks things on purpose sometimes. He just does. Anyone who disagrees, you are wrong. You are wrong. Or it could just be Danny Ainge just doesn't give a flip, and if someone finds out, he doesn't care. And players know about these things. By the way, players know about these things way more than we do. And players know more about what's going on than we do. because agents will come to them and say, hey, this is going on. What do you think? Do you like this idea? Blah, blah, blah. But anyways, is it coming from Danny Ainge or is it coming from CAA? That's the question with the Walker Kessler rumors. Is it coming from CAA because Walker Kessler wants moved? Or is it coming from Danny Ainge because Danny Ainge is trying to up the price of Walker Kessler for a potential trade? The rumors we've seen have come from LA, which makes sense because there's shared client list on the Lakers that's also on the Jazz, which is Walker Kessler, right? And we've seen those rumors. And the reason why I'm kind of wondering if it's CAA is because we saw all those rumors before from the Knicks, who are heavily embedded with CAA. CAA is like number 2 behind Rich Paul and Clutch. And probably, in my opinion, probably number 1 because Rich Paul is like, I would say Rich Paul's number 2. And why is Rich Paul number 1? Well, because his client's LeBron James, who makes all that money. And there is some, clout to that for sure. But I think LeBron James is losing his clout a little bit. And I think Rich Paul's going to drop in the client list. CAA is like powerhouse. It's up there. And that's why I kind of wonder if was Walker Kessler trying to get traded? I don't know. It's something I ask myself at night when you look at things through the agency point of view. Don't think I didn't learn from you, Amar. Amar, I have learned from you as other Jedis before me that died. Amar died as the Jedi SLC dunk manager. He fell. And then Michael became the next Jedi SLC dunk manager. He also fell. I will not fall. I am Obi-Wan Kenobi. I will not fall. I will not fall. It will not happen. I may get killed by another upper Jedi level, but I will not fall to the dark side and the Sith. It will not happen. I will be that gray Jedi. But anyways, Rich Paul. I was going to look at who's on the Jazz list. Jordan Clarkson. Rich Paul got Jordan Clarkson paid, and Utah is definitely connected to Rich Paul. The other one is Colin Sexton. I think Rich Paul is going to try to get Colin Sexton into a move. But who is Rich Paul connected to? Who is Rich Paul connected to? The Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James. Who have the Utah Jazz made 2 trades with the last 2 seasons? The Lakers. Utah's made 2 big-time trades the last 2 seasons with Lakers. Part of it was to get salary filler. I think they've done it twice, where they've done salary relief for Russell Westbrook, and then the other trade, right? I think it happened twice. Well, I can't remember but Utah made 2 trades. I can't remember what the other one was. It was a smaller trade. It was like, wasn't it I forgot his name, the Pat Beverly trade, and then also the other big one. Utah's made multiple trades with the Lakers. Utah is connected to Rich Paul. Don't think that doesn't matter, because it does. But Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson, Rich Paul clients from Clutch Sports. It matters. So anyways, something to watch. You want a prediction? Do you want a way to predict something if there's a betting market out there for this? Look at who's on the Jazz and who's connected to Rich Paul and the Lakers. Obviously, Bronny James is Rich Paul because it's LeBron James' agency. But by the way, if there is not a bigger example of collusion and just some of the underbellies of sports. By the way, all sports are corrupt. Just sometimes the NBA is just right out there. Just no one talks about it. But Bronny James going to the Lakers and getting that 2nd round contract is such an example of easy money for Clutch Sports. LeBron James and Rich Paul. It's actually, I don't know. It makes me laugh. It's so corrupt. It's funny. I don't know. But anyways, Talen Horton-Tucker, come on now. Utah brought Talen Horton-Tucker over, and you don't think that was some sort of favor to Rich Paul to up Talen Horton-Tucker's value so he could back with the Chicago Bulls. So Utah is in with Rich Paul. Utah is dancing with the devil, baby, and I love it. I love it. This is what you got to do. It's what you got to do. If you want to get there, if you want to get to this promised land, you got to dance with the devil, you got to lose those games, and you got to make some moves. My bet, based off of the agency stuff, based off of agency things, and you should always follow the agents, guys. Go have fun with the rabbit hole. I just introduced you to your rabbit hole tonight. Go look up agencies. Go look up top agencies. You can go look at it, Spot Track. Go look at their clients. Go look at the Utah Jazz players and who their agencies are. It's fun. You can make some predictions. But Colin Sexton, in my opinion, might be a Laker by the end of trade deadline. That's my little prediction. Just based off of agency stuff. Utah's connection with Rich Paul and the Lakers. We know the Lakers are going to make some sort of move. They're going to try something. And honestly, Colin Sexton would kind of fit what they need. They need a player that can play off of LeBron James and score. Now, whether the Jazz get what they want for Colin Sexton, I don't know. But I think the Utah Jazz need to trade him sooner than later, because the other thing I wanted to talk about tonight, and it's not even necessarily about the players, because whatever, everyone sucked tonight. Everyone sucked. Whatever. Is the Utah Jazz schedule. Utah has some big games coming up. I want to go to the one that has like the full. It's funny. Usually like NBC has a pretty good one. I guess let's just go to Basketball Reference. Utah has some big games coming. So they lost this, but guess what? These two games are big, but the one that really scares me is this Brooklyn Nets game. For Christmas, I'd like a Colin Sexton trade. Come on, someone call Rich Paul. Danny, Justin, call Rich Paul. It rhymes. We can make a Christmas carol about it. Call Rich Paul, trade Colin Sexton. Call Rich Paul, Clutch Sports is the way the Jazz will get Flagg. Do it now, Utah. Do it, please. It's my Christmas wish. All I want for Christmas is a Colin Sexton trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. Remove the protections on the trade, or give us just one first-round pick for Colin Sexton at 20. It's just a measly 2029 pick. Come on. Treat me. I'm Tiny Tim here. I'm just this Utah Jazz blogger, YouTube creator. My channel got hacked. Rich Paul, Danny Ainge, just listen to poor little me. My channel got hacked 2 weeks ago. I didn't get to make a video for like a week. Please, just give me one little trade. One little Colin Sexton trade. Please, Rich Paul. Alms for the poor. Please, Rich Paul, be the Ebenezer Scrooge and change your heart and give us a trade so that we can get Cooper Flagg, because that's what will happen for this Utah Jazz team. They've got to lose this game right here against the Brooklyn Nets. They've already made their little move with the Golden State Warriors, who traded for Dennis Schroeder. The chess pieces are already happening, and Utah cannot lose this game. They cannot win this game. They have to lose it. Utah did the right thing and lost tonight. Luckily, the Jazz are on a road trip here. This is a brutal road trip because they go from West Coast to East Coast. Actually, that's crazy brutal. They do get rest in between, but Utah's going to play Detroit, who is playing pretty well. In fact, Detroit might mess around and make the playoffs here. It's actually kind of wild. So if you go to NBA.com here and you go to the standings, Detroit, by the way, pretty fun team to watch, by the way. Everyone who was saying, oh, the Utah Jazz could have been the Detroit Pistons. Well, the Detroit Pistons are certainly looking nice. And Asar Thompson had like a health scare, like some sort of like clogged artery or something. I can't remember. He's just barely come back. And Detroit's been winning games. You go to Detroit, look at that. They're already been playing. People thought they were going to be competing for the number one. No, Cade Cunningham, who, guess what? They got number one overall, is looking really good. And all of a sudden, they're starting to look like a really nice team. They got some better coaching. They're going to make the play-in. They're certainly going to beat Utah in a few days. And guess what? They are going to continue to keep going. Now, the thing that's dumb about them, and that the Jazz did a good job, is Jazz can get their number one pick and they can start winning, and then they'll still get Cleveland and Minnesota picks when they get bad. The question is, can Utah do it again? Utah needs to get more picks, more picks, more picks. That's all that matters. All that matters, because we've basically kind of talked about it tonight. Man, my heartburn is so bad right now. Guys, this sickness I had was the weirdest sickness. I lost my voice, sore throat, cough, and the weirdest like stomach pain. It's so weird, dude. Like I'm having like crazy heartburn over nothing. And I ate well today. Sorry, that's a tangent. But what Utah needs to do is they need to get future picks even more and more and more. Can they get some Laker picks? I don't care. Trade them Walker Kessler and Colin Sexton. And I know some people will get mad at me and they'll say comments like, no, we'll try to keep Walker Kessler. No, because what happens is Utah's core player is going to be one of these three guys. Like, let's say they get Cooper Flagg and he becomes an absolute top 5 caliber player. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You've just changed your franchise for the next 10, 15 years. But then what happens when Cooper Flagg develops and then Minnesota starts tapering off because they make stupid decisions? Or like the Lakers post LeBron, post Anthony Davis, make the stupidest decisions in the world and they give the Utah Jazz a top 5 pick, and then you add that to Cooper Flagg. That's what you're betting on. You're betting on that so that you combine those players like Cooper Flagg and Lauri Markkanen with another top 5 pick in the future, right? You know what I mean? That's what Utah's trying to do. And by the way, the dream scenario is that Utah gets AJ DeBonsa, who just went to BYU. I told you guys. By the way, comment below. Did I not tell you guys that was happening? Did I not call that months and months and months ago? Were we not talking about that like months and months ago? I told you guys. I had heard the things. And I had talked about it on this channel. I told you that was going to happen. I told you. And now some of it I just do with tea leaves, but the tea leaves right now are screaming. Have you guys watched Willow when the wizard consults the bones? The bones right now are absolutely rattling that Utah is going for AJ DeBonsa next year. Absolutely. The contracts all tell the same story. Utah is absolutely going to make some trades. My head is itching. Utah is going to make some trades this trade deadline, and they're going to make some trades next trade deadline to open up the books. But they are going to do it to get on more picks. Guys, the yellow brick road has been cast, like in Wicked. By the way, incredible movie, Wicked. But the yellow brick road has been drawn, and Utah is on their way to get that pick. The die have been cast. The road hath been laid, and Utah is on their way to that promised land, to the Emerald City. Now, when we go to Emerald City, I hope it doesn't turn bad like it did for Elphaba. Poor Elphaba, most misunderstood, right? Just like Jazz fans, we're misunderstood. Just come to Utah. We're great. We're like Elphaba. You don't realize we're actually the good guy. We're actually a great place to be. It's not what you think. What people say about Utah is different than when you actually come here. When you actually come to Utah, you realize like, oh, it's actually a pretty nice place to be. And NBA players realize that they only spend about a quarter of their life in the actual city they play for. Right? Because you spend half of it on the road and you spend the off season somewhere else, wherever you want. It doesn't even matter. And Utah in itself is not that bad. The climate's actually pretty good. Have you been in North Carolina in the summer? Brutal. The summers are terrible. Have you been in Ohio in the summer? Ugh. Have you been in Ohio in the winter? Blah. Sucks. Have you been in Minnesota in the winter? No thanks. Utah in the summer and the winter, you could do worse. You could do worse. Now, is it Houston or LA or Miami or New York? No, it is not. We will not be, but we've already established that Utah's not a free agency destination. But it's certainly worse places to be than Utah, right? Right now, what was the temperature today? It was like 34 degrees. It's pretty nice. The gym outside today, pretty good. And the summer, pretty warm and not humid. You could do worse. So anyways, Utah is Elphaba. It's misunderstood. Utah is Elphaba. That's my metaphor for tonight. And the Emerald City, when we go to the Emerald City, freaking Oz, the all-powerful Oz, he better not screw us. You better not, Adam Silver. Is Adam Silver Oz? You better not, Adam Silver. You better not. You jerk. You dirty jerk. We are going through all the muck and all the corruption of Rich Paul and the Clutch and all these guys. You better not screw it up. You better not. Dang it, Adam Silver, we've done everything the right way. Give us Cooper Flagg. We deserve him. We deserve him. And I said the word deserve. We've done the work. We did it the right way. All right, guys, I think that's all I got. We went down some rabbit holes tonight, but that's okay. Because, I don't know. When you lose by 40, you got to go down some rabbit holes. But let's give a shout out. Let's first do our lottery for tonight and see where the Jazz would lay if the lottery were tonight. Got to start the music, baby. By the way, before we do, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure if you want to support, hit join. Thank you so much to all the members of the channel. You make such a difference to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot. It really matters. All right, so here's how it goes. If the lottery were today, Utah's sitting at 3, and we send the lottery, what would happen? Let us see. Utah drops to 5, but guess what? They get a choose between BJ Edgecombe and Kasparis Giacosonis, and you can basically assure that Utah goes for what's it called? AJ DeBonsa at that point. That sucks that we fall to 5, but at least it's at 5 and not 7. And guess what? Trey Johnson's there too. Utah might just choose Trey Johnson at 5 and say, hey, we're going big time offense. And Trey Johnson is that guy. Trey Johnson's an incredible offensive player. All right, guys. It's a can't lose for the Jazz. I just wish we could get the top 3. How does Chicago finally jump and get Ace Bailey? It's so unfair. The Pelicans, the most pathetic franchise in the world. I can promise you, the NBA would much rather Cooper Flagg be in Utah than in New Orleans. I can tell you that right now. That market is terrible. That team is terrible. That organization does not deserve another number 1 pick. Look what happened with Zion. Holy crap. All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars tonight. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. I appreciate you. The All-Stars, you guys are incredible. Let's give a shout out to Ryan Edward Perry, the legend, Baby Elliott Madsen, See Ya Alexa Later, Christian House Money to Haas, The Outlaw Jesse James Nelson, Jordan the Goat Besserell, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, KG10 to TH5, and Patrick Akubo, the Connoisseur. Guys, what this proved to me tonight, that if we drop 2 spots, we absolutely have to be at that number 2 spot because we'd be coming away with Yegor Demon. Utah needs it like crazy. We have to get that top 4. Have to. All right, guys, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much to the members and everyone who supports. I will talk to you next time.